This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
I'm Tony Bruschi. The icy January air in the Poconos sliced through the darkness as a tactical unit descended on the Kohberger family home. Flashing red and blue lights flickered off snow-covered trees while the quiet neighborhood erupted in chaos. Shouts echoed, doors splintered, and glass shattered, a scene more like a Hollywood thriller than the quiet life of a former PhD student. But for Bryan Kohberger and his family, the nightmare had only just begun. The defense claims it was a siege. Officers broke through the front door and shattered a sliding glass door in the basement. The Kohbergers, sleepy-eyed and bewildered, found themselves staring down the barrels of loaded weapons. Bryan Kohberger, handcuffed and surrounded, listened as the voices of law enforcement filled the air, barking orders. According to new court filings, he wasn't read his Miranda rights. Yet there, in the frenzy, words tumbled from his lips. Statements he made under pressure, his defense now argues, should be struck from the record. Imagine the tension as Kohberger sat, immobilized, his wrist bound, and adrenaline coursing through his veins. Statements made under duress, they insist, are constitutionally inadmissible. His defense team, led by attorney Ann Taylor, is fighting to have every syllable erased from the evidence list. And that's only the beginning of a legal war that could shape this case for years to come. The defense strategy, however, doesn't stop at that chaotic night. It hinges on something far more insidious, they argue, the improper use of Bryan Kohberger's genetic information. DNA is the invisible thread that ties him to the brutal killings of 4 innocent young adults. DNA that prosecutors say was found on the button snap of a knife sheath, abandoned at the scene of a crime that has horrified an entire nation. The defense claims that DNA was illegally gathered, a violation so egregious that it taints everything that came after. Authorities have painted the genetic trail as a straight line, a match so certain, so undeniable that it should have been the end of the story. Yet Kohberger's defense has drawn a thick black line through the narrative pointing to the Fourth Amendment. Unreasonable searches and seizures, they insist, must not only be questioned but condemned. Investigative genetic genealogy, or IGG, the very tool heralded for its cold case successes, is under a microscope. They claim that it wasn't just a scientific endeavor, but a violation of Bryan Kohberger's privacy, one that strikes at the heart of constitutional rights. Public ancestry websites, family trees pieced together from DNA voluntarily submitted by the curious and the hopeful, that's where this story takes another turn. The technique, the defense argues, belongs on the scrutiny table, not in the courtroom. It's not the warm embrace of genealogy enthusiasts here, but a weapon used to tear through the delicate fabric of legal protections. And in the eyes of Kohberger's legal team, that breach could bring the entire case crashing down. Without that DNA evidence, the defense says there is no case. No warrants for Kohberger's car, the now infamous white Hyundai Elantra, would have been issued. No records from Apple or Amazon accounts would have been subpoenaed. No data from Kohberger's phone, tracking his movements, would be in the hands of investigators. A tainted tree yields only poisoned fruit, they argue, and this case is now nothing but a rotten orchard. The prosecution is well aware of what's at stake. They argue the cheek swab obtained from Kohberger, linking him to the crime scene, is solid and unassailable, but the defense has already set its sights on discrediting that key piece of evidence. Imagine the tension in the courtroom as Taylor argues that every moment of that evidence gathering was a constitutional misstep. The prosecution insists it was by the book, but the defense insists on rewriting that book. And it doesn't stop there. Search warrants executed at Kohberger's parents' home, his apartment in Washington State, even the digital trail from his Amazon purchases, all of it is under attack. Taylor claims that investigators didn't have probable cause. Think about that for a moment. A house full of shattered glass and fearful faces, the clamor of a law enforcement raid, all potentially built on a shaky foundation. If the defense succeeds in convincing the judge, critical pieces of the puzzle could be swept off the table one after another. Investigative genetic genealogy isn't just under legal scrutiny here. It's being dragged through an ethical examination, one that could redefine how it's used in active investigations. For years, it has been the hero of unsolved mysteries, bringing justice to the forgotten. But now, with Bryan Kohberger's life hanging in the balance, the debate over privacy versus progress has never been sharper. Tensions only escalate with reports that the FBI didn't retain some IgG records. It's a detail that may seem small, but in the world of forensic evidence, every record matters. The defense knows it and is pressing hard. Ann Taylor and her team argue that the evidence chain's integrity is shattered, just like that basement glass. When the rules aren't followed, they say, the entire game should be reconsidered. The legal showdown looms large. Prosecutors have until early December to respond to the hundreds of pages of suppression briefs. By late January, the courtroom will become a battlefield, with each side presenting arguments that will either strengthen or dismantle the case. The trial slated for next summer is shaping up to be a masterclass in legal drama. Meanwhile, the families of the victims await answers. Their grief is a constant, a reminder that behind every twist and turn in this case lies the loss of 4 young lives. The community still mourns the horror of that November night fresh in their minds. As the defense and prosecution circle each other, the emotional stakes couldn't be higher. Bryan Kohberger, facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and a possible death penalty, maintains his innocence. His defense, ever confident, claims the case is riddled with procedural missteps. And while they wait for the court's rulings, the rest of us watch, knowing that each development could be a turning point not just for the accused, but for the future of forensic science and privacy laws. The sheer complexity of the case surrounding Bryan Kohberger lies in the tension between groundbreaking forensic techniques and the fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution. It's a moment to pause and consider not only the intricacies of this high-stakes trial, but also the broader implications for privacy and the judicial system. The defense's attack on investigative genetic genealogy isn't just a legal maneuver. It's a philosophical question about how far society is willing to go in the name of justice. DNA is a remarkable tool, but if privacy rights get sacrificed along the way, where do we draw the line? The Kohberger case may be about a horrific crime, but the debate it has ignited transcends the specific accusations. Law enforcement agencies have leaned on IgG with growing confidence, but the scrutiny this case is inviting could force a reevaluation of its use in active investigations. Consider, for example, how this very same technique has solved so many long, cold cases, bringing closure to families who thought they'd never get answers. Is it fair for the legal system to rely on tools that could, in some scenarios, infringe upon constitutional protections? There's a fine balance to maintain, and the Kohberger case has unintentionally become the battleground for that ethical debate. While Kohberger's defense attempts to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative, there's an undeniable emotional toll. For the families, the victims, this legal back and forth isn't just courtroom drama. It's an agonizing reminder of their loss. Every motion filed and every argument made only prolongs their heartache, keeping the wounds open. Yet, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with covering a story like this. The public deserves to know the truth, and the defense's claims deserve a fair hearing. What makes the case even more compelling is that we're witnessing history in the making. The outcome could redefine how investigators use DNA and technology in the future, influencing not just this case, but countless others. For those of us watching from the outside, it's hard not to feel a twinge of discomfort. What if we were the ones whose rights were being debated in such a high-profile manner? The courtroom battle ahead will be fierce, with both sides making arguments that resonate beyond the 4 walls of the courthouse. In the end, as the tension escalates, one question lingers. Will this case become a landmark moment in the way evidence is collected and used, or will it be a cautionary tale of legal overreach? That's all for now. We'll keep digging and getting you the facts. Thanks for listening. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface,
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
where hidden killers roam Unnoticed in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Bruschi as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.